All right. Thank you all for coming and attending our Natrona County Parks Board meeting. We're an advisory board for the county commissioners. Start with a with the roll call. I can't even talk tonight. Geez, the roll call.
Rob Hill, present.
Jim Miller, present.
Doug Irvin, present.
We also have Dave North and Stuart Hill is present. Let's look at the approval of the October 13th minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at those? Any changes? Oh, the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, I did. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go to the approval. Everybody had a chance to look at those?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second the motion to approve the minutes.
Any changes or discussion? All right, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, they pass. All right, before we go to the reports, something we haven't done since Rob got on is to have an election. Now, I will be going off the board at the year end. I was hoping we'd have a new member, but we will not, I don't think. So hopefully we can get another one, but I was hoping we'd get another one. But I will not be on the board next year, so I would like you three to look what you want to do here, and let's do an election. Who would like to be chair?
I nominate Doug to be chair.
Jim.
Second it real quick. Second.
Okay.
Are you opposed to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
I nominate Jim to be vice chair.
Second.
Okay, and we have a second of that one. Jim, you good with that?
Yeah, this
Well,
time.
Rob, you're going to be, looks like we'll nominate you for secretary.
Seconded.
Seconded, all right. So our slate is Doug for chairman, Jim for vice, and Rob for secretary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. All right. Well, Doug, guess what? You're now it.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the reports from the Parks Director. Michael, how about you take it away from there?
Okay, I'm going to reorganize this a little bit, and I'm going to move the Cash Mountain Trail Center to the end, because it'll probably take up some more time, and that's what the package I've provided everybody with. So I'll jump down to number 2, Rotary Park. I am currently working on an application with the University of Wyoming Conservation Corps to do trail maintenance next spring. I have their application forms, and I'm starting to go through that process to fill all that out. If anybody has any input as to some of the things we can do, because it's always better to have more, because I understand they're pretty quick. So I'd welcome that input from the board, from the public, on things that we could have them do. But most of what I really want to have them focus on the east side. There's some trail maintenance there that's going to take some time, and it'll really improve the trails if we can get that cleaned up. So, but yeah, I'm open to areas that need improvement on the bridle trail. The Nordic trails, we've installed a number of signs. I think my staff is nearly complete with that. What a lot of the signs are is we've taken the winter trail map, we've laminated it, and then we put it on a backer board and we put them up quite a bit in the North 40 and other areas. And we've taken a "You Are Here" sticker, and we've taped it with packing tape on top of that lamination, so that if you're not quite sure where you're at, and you come across one of these, it'll say, "You are here," and then it gives you an idea how to get back to the lodge. Just trying to improve that. They've put some, I think, some of the names of the trails up too, which I'm not very good with. So, but they've been doing a lot of work on improving signage throughout the ski area. We did groom last week, packed the snow down. Today, the conditions are ice, basically, so they'll continue to improve the grooming as the snow comes. Hopefully, it doesn't melt. It was muddy before the ice, so it's kind of a wait and see. The biathlon grooming agreement's been signed and executed by the county commissioners, so that's in place, so Casper Mountain Biathlon Club will be provided funding to do the grooming over on that side. The way that works is they invoice me monthly with the number of hours, type of machine, and the days that they groomed. So and then we pay that invoice as we receive it.
Did they tell you what equipment they use when they groom?
Yes. Yep, they do provide it. The way the agreement's set up, it's a flat hourly rate, whether it's the print-off or it's the side-by-side. So I don't really have a way of breaking it down, but I do have a way of tracking how many hours are done with the big groomer versus the side-by-side. And I actually figured that out last year. The bulk of his grooming last year was done with the big groomer. So, I do understand they just purchased and received a used tiller. I think their old tiller was pretty well shot, so hopefully that'll improve some of the conditions over there.
Any update while we're there on the spring plans?
For nationals, no, I haven't heard any more on any sponsorship that he's getting or anything. I've had very little communication on that. At this point, the Parks Department will do the grooming for the event, but, and Road and Bridge will make sure that bear trap parking is opened up for the event too. So, that's the extent of our involvement with it at this point. I haven't heard any more, so.
Thank you.
The Wyoming Outdoor Recreation Grant application that I submitted for the bear trap shelters and new picnic tables and fire rings did not pass the first phase with them. So we were not awarded to move on in the process. Also, Commissioner North applied for the Platte River Gun Club out on, off of Poison Spider, the gun range out there, for some improvements, and that application also did not move forward. I've requested comments on reviews to see where we could improve. I also asked for a list of the projects that did move on. Statewide, there was $72 million requested, and there's only $12 million available. Through word of mouth, I heard that some of the Platte River Trails, 2 of their projects moved forward here in the county, as well as the city of Casper had 3 projects. So Platte River Trails was their bridge project from Paradise Valley to Riverbend moved on. And then I believe it was the extension to Edna Kimball Wilkins. And then the city of Casper, they had a application for additional boat ramps into the river along the city. That moved on. Additional lighting at Hogadon, that one progressed. And then I believe Stuckenoff Shooting Range, their project progressed. So I'm not quite sure why the county projects didn't progress or not, but once I know that, I'll share that information. We did receive a Land, Water, and Conservation Fund grant. Parks was awarded that. That agreement's all signed and ready to go. That grant was for 4 kiosks, informational kiosks on the mountain. These kiosks are designed by RDG, who did the wayfinding signs. And so they kind of fall within standardization, but 2 of them will be at Bear Trap, 1 at Biathlon, and 1 at the archery range. I believe I also have funding from Visit Casper to install a kiosk at the new lodge. The reason the grant was only for those 4 is those fell on county property. It was a short fuse to turn our application in, and we didn't have time to research all the long-term leases and everything, so property owned by the county was a much simpler process. So that is, I'll start getting that out to bid early next year. That's a 50/50 match grant, so the commissioners have committed $230,000 towards that, and the match, so that would be the match, and the grant would provide $230,000. The way that works is the county has to pay for the entire thing, and then we're reimbursed at 50%, not to exceed $230,000, so.
Fantastic.
The Pathfinder campground improvements, we opened the bids today, the engineering firm and myself. There were 3 bids turned in. The engineers are tabulating it and just making sure that they're all correct. They all fell within the $1.5 million range for the base bid. And then there were some alternative bids for possibly paving the parking lot or replacing the old boat ramp, removal and replacement of that. So those were in addition to that. So they're going through that. They'll give me a bid tab and a recommendation to award. And I plan to have the notice to award to the commission this Tuesday, the 15th. And then we'll work on the contract with the contractor, and we plan to have that to the commission on the December 6th meeting, so they can then get started after that.
So you're hoping we'll start this summer?
I'm hoping we'll start at the end of the year, if not right after that. The goal is to have that boat ramp done while the water's low, campground done, and the project completed around June 30th, before the 4th of July. The Pathfinder footbridge, I'm still drafting a request for bid to conduct those repairs on that, so we can get that opened up again. And the last item before we go to the Trail Center is the Bureau Rec does a compliance review every 5 years. We did our first compliance review on the 100 cabins at Alcova. Took us 7 field days to do it. And so at this point, I'm waiting on their report so that I can review that and then break it out and notify the cabin owners of issues that need to be corrected on their lots. So things like fire rings are one of them. There's a whole slew of things that will come up with this, propane tanks that aren't secured, simple things like that. Boards that need to be tied down, trip hazards on decks and things like that. So it's pretty, I wouldn't say it's all encompassing. It's a general maintenance cleanup kind of thing. The Bureau Rec looks for some safety issues, but they don't dive into detailed electrical issues or structural issues. That's beyond our purview. So if we see something that looks major like that, we're gonna recommend them have an engineer look at it and tell them what they need to correct on something like that. So. Any questions on any of those items?
one, yeah, ma'am. On the signage, Michael, in the front of the skunk hauler and also in front of the temporary lodge is old signs that have been there forever that are steel.
Yes.
They're kind of faded and you can't read them very well. I wonder if we could get some new ones replaced with that. I know right after your staff groomed the other day, there was a number of hikers that were walking on those trails.
Right.
And I talked to one of the people, and they said there's no signage. What's there, we can't read, so we're going to walk as much as we want. And it says on the sign, no walking, but the grooming has started, and in the rules and regs, it says once the grooming has started, there's no walking on the trails. But it doesn't seem to stop the walkers. You know, the snowshoe people are welcome and whatnot, but not foot traffic.
Yeah, so I'll look into replacing those big signs. We do have on order, they're I think they're probably now 5 weeks out. They were 8 weeks when we ordered, but we did order a bunch of signs about that and classic tracks that'll go along the trails. They're smaller signs, but I know you're talking about the big metal signs in there that need to be replaced because they're faded, so, yeah.
Okay?
I'll get on that. We'll get something up, you know, even if it's a temporary
Right.
to
Yep.
prove,
Thank you.
you know, so people don't walk on the groomed trails. Yeah. All right, so the Castle Mountain Trail Center package.
I think Rob had some questions.
Michael, just
Oh,
a quick question on the inspections at the cabins at Alcoba. Who does that inspection? Is it just you, or do you?
So
are you
is,
a company?
I have a representative from the Bureau of Rec,
Okay.
because they requested it, and then myself. And we both photo document everything as we come across it. And so her report will have the photos in there of areas of concern. I mean, for example, one cabin site's got quite a large fire pit, and there's no wood burning fire pits allowed. But it also had spent firecrackers in it, which is against county law. So, and that area is a lot of juniper, and it's, I'd hate to see that place go up. So,
Just a quick follow-up. What is so you find a violation and then the owner is told, how long do they have to rectify it, or?
I think in the trailers, we give them several months. I mean, you know, most likely, if I can get this out early next year, I'll give them till Memorial Day. You know, that way they have some time when it's not frozen and covered in snow. And we may, you know, and if there's people that live out of state and only summer up there and in the trailers, and I've given them, if they talk to me, I give them, you know, okay, yeah, you said you're out of state, you can't get it fixed, you know, I'll work with you, you know. It's not a hard line in the sand that you have to have it done by April 25th or whatever.
Thank you.
I'd sure like to see that pushed back to the end of June. I think that'd help out a bunch.
Okay, yeah, and it may be, just depending on when that agreement, but yeah, I'll put that on here.
Thank you, appreciate it. Because there are a lot of folks who do not live in town.
Any other board questions for Michael?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so what you have in front of you is the concept that the county has been working on with the architect and the civil engineer for the new lodge. So you've got a couple of pretty pictures that they've provided, kind of giving you a conceptual view of what it's going to look like. The top page, that'll be facing basically the parking lot. And then the second one will be facing out towards, as you head towards Bishop's, to give you kind of an idea if anybody's aware of the orientation. And, you know, colors are not set in stone. This is just how they colored it to give it some perspective. We'll have three entrances. The main entrance will be right on the front off the parking lot. Then there'll be a side entrance on each side. And one of those goes into the great room, which that won't be open most of the time unless there's a race or an event or something. I'm not sure how. Like I said, we're still conceptual, so operations haven't been determined yet exactly on when this will be open and how it'll be open. So basically, we have these airlock setups on the entry doors. So the main vestibule, you've got one set of doors that's going to be protected from the wind the way it's oriented, and then you have a second set of doors. This will help with some of the heat exchange as people are coming in and out, and just, you won't get that rush of wind blowing everything into the main building. So, we will have men's and women's restrooms and a family restroom. The men's and women's will each have 3 stalls, so that'll be a large improvement from the old lodge. They had single stalls for each. Kind of the plan is this at least this main entrance will be open when the lighted loop for skiing's open, so that people can get in and use the restroom. By the restrooms, there's some water fountains, and there's an area for vending machines, so we can put hot chocolate coffee vending machines and maybe a snack machine or whatever we decide there, so that people can do that. Across from there, there's a bench, so if you wanted to sit in there and have your coffee, you could do that even though the great room's closed. The mechanical room's on the far upper right corner. That's just where all our mechanical stuff will go. We have a small IT closet off of that for any IT needs for the parks office, as well as our webcams that we have out there. And then next to the maintenance or mechanical room is, we're calling it a club office. It'd be a space that could be used by the Nordic Club as well as the school district. The school district mentioned sometimes they do science field trips up here, and they have their iPads and whatnot, and so we put some closets in that office where they could lock up that stuff instead of having to haul it down for if they're up there multiple days. Just kind of a secondary space that the Nordic Club could use, you know, in the school district. Let's see. The occupancy, they revised this a little bit late this afternoon, but basically the seating occupancy with tables would be about 80 people. But the maximum occupancy for the building is pushing 240 people. So if you had a presenter here and you had rows of chairs, you'd have a whole lot more people in there. The kitchen will be a catering kitchen, so we will not have it, we won't have anybody running a commercial kitchen out of here, so this will be for potlucks, for weddings. You know, if there's a large event, I can foresee maybe a food truck coming up and serving out of here, or, you know, we could maybe contract with Spectrum of Hogadon, and they could prepare the food there and keep it warm and sell it out of here, those types of things. But we won't have anybody staffing it throughout the year or throughout the winter. Are there any questions about the floor plan?
Looks like we lost, looks like we lost some square footage in the main room.
So we did
The old
cut it
ones.
down a little bit, and I think that was sizing wise. I think it was a cost saving thing, and I don't recall exactly. We did get rid of the back patio, that back outside patio, because there was concern with that retaining wall, the snow coming off. If it piles up, then it could potentially fall over that if it's tall enough, if maintenance doesn't get out there and clear that out. So that was a bit of a cost savings too. And I do not have a new estimate on this. I want to get it through you guys and Board of County Commissioners and probably a public presentation on it before they do a final professional cost estimate. But the architect feels it falls within the confines of the budget from the county. So they did narrow up the hallway some. I know they took some space out of there, and they may have taken, this is a pre-engineered building, so they may have taken a little bit of space out of the great room to go between the supports of the pre-engineered building.
Yeah, we lost a couple hundred square foot in there. I like it, looks good.
And then the next couple pages are just elevations, design, so you can kind of see how tall the windows go up and whatnot. I think the first one on the top, that chimney for the fireplace is at 27 feet above foundation. So that gives you an idea really how tall this interior is gonna be. I don't know if they have other dimensions on here or not. Yeah, so we're looking, the peak of the interior roofs is probably pushing, it's above 20 feet for sure. And then, the last page is a conceptual on the site plan. So initially, this building wasn't rotated this way. It was basically facing due south. Some folks had some concerns about that from a maintenance standpoint and snow harvesting and the snow falling off the roof. It was kind of decided that maybe it should be rotated somewhat so that snow falls in an area that is easier to access and move. There will be some changes to the trail layout that even more than what's seen here as we go to final design. So really where we're at is we want to try and adopt this concept so that we can allow the architect to go to full design and have his mechanical and his electrical subs and the civil actually do a full design with full grading and everything like that for the parking lot and the site. One thing to note on here, we have 5 handicap spots. Those will be in concrete. And then between the building and there will be concrete as well. So there'll be this concrete, 10-foot concrete walkway along the edge on the northerly side, and then it'll be all concrete up to the building from the parking lot and the bus loading. There will not be a curb at the parking lot, so maintenance on removal of snow will be able to take a wheeled vehicle, skid steer, backhoe, a front end loader, and clear that snow off of there a lot easier. So that'll help. We're gonna go with propane heat, propane gas fireplace. So there's a propane tank positioned here. That could change where it's located, but we want to make sure it's accessible, that it can be filled from the parking lot. We have a 20-foot buffer around the edge of the parking lot for snow removal piles, so that'll be part of it. There's no plans for any retaining walls on this parking lot, so that's a good thing. But a lot more parking for sure. A loading, unloading zone. We'll be improving the septic runs a little bit, so where it says replace septic tanks, currently those 2 vaults sit next to each other, and it's really better for them to be in line, and so the civil engineers kind of agreed with that, so that's part of the project. We've taken out a big kink in our sanitary line to those vaults where typically we get a lot of hangups in the current system. So that'll be corrected. We're planning on changing so there's a power pole right by the driveway that overhead power goes to, and currently that overhead power goes past the building to the other side of the trail. We're gonna go underground from that power pole at the driveway to the building across the parking lot. So we won't have that overhead power. For one, you don't wanna run overhead power like that over the building that's 27 feet tall. So instead of rerouting overhead, we'll just go underground. We'll be rerouting the water line, just to make it work a little better and get it to the correct depth so it doesn't freeze. And there's a potential for bus parking up here in that one area where you see the diagonals. I'm not sure if that's needed or not, but that's an option that we could do there. I know I'm spitting out a lot of information. Are there any questions?
Is it sitting on the same foundation?
No. So it'd be brand new foundation. So if you look at the site plan, you see the darker dotted rectangle on that right corner of the proposed building? That little one?
Okay.
That's the current temporary shelter. And then outside of that, you can see the old footprint of the old lodge and the concrete there. And because of this reorientation with it angled here, the geotech will be up there probably next week to drill two additional bores along that northern edge, that northwest edge of the building. Just so they have a solid understanding of what's there. They drilled several earlier in the year, when we were talking about putting the lodge in a different spot and here. And so they just want to confirm that we can still sub-excavate in that area. And so.
That's all you got? So with the parking lot then, for the first phase, it would be to enlarging what we have now to what we're looking at here? For
Yes.
the southern
So
southeast.
if you go out to the entry point, the driveway, and you see a dotted line just south of the northerly edge.
Yep.
That's the current parking lot. So you can follow it up and then it makes a 90 and goes out across the parking lot to the other edge. And then it comes back down and goes across those southerly parking spots. So that's the current parking lot right now. So to prevent, so a lot of the parking lot is being expanded to the north. As I understand it right now, the way the estimate looks, all of this should be able to be done within the financial constraints. Now, when it comes to bid time, all of that may go out the window.
Yeah.
So the first phase of the parking lot includes the handicap spot. So
Okay, I see
it does
that.
not include everything in that westerly wing past the handicapped and then to the southwest there, those 3 rows. And you see another dotted line coming off the corner of the proposed parking lot. That's the phase 1.
This is phase one.
This is phase one.
Yep.
This is all be done in the first phase.
Right.
That's a lot of expansion, that's great.
Yeah. We did have talk for a while about having a generator in case the power goes down. We've removed that option because if the power goes out here, it's going out at the water well, and we no longer have a tank. So if the pump's not running, we're not getting water here. But in lieu of that, we are planning on having them provide an exterior generator transfer switch. So if we need to run it without any power, we can just bring up a small generator to run the heat, basically. So that we don't freeze everything up. So that's the plan there.
Good idea.
You know, somewhere around the county, there's a diesel generator floating around, but I'm a little concerned about diesel fuel. I'd prefer propane generator if we're gonna do it in these conditions. And then, we had fuel stolen from the maintenance building up there. So about 50 gallons. They did it in 2 different stints. So, having a diesel tank set next to generators, just asking for somebody to go siphon out the fuel too. So,
So was the line coming down from the water line from the tank?
yeah.
Is it gonna be lowered going across the road than into the parking lot area?
Yes, so I have in my budget this year, money to install a bore, a sleeve across the mountain road. And so we'll get that down below frost depth. And then the water line will go through that and connect on Limmer's Road. And then, I'm not sure exactly when, but the plan is to eventually replace the water line all the way to the well and get it to the appropriate depth and whatnot, because it's getting quite old for one. It's not quite to depth. We could probably size it up a little bit. So we're gonna make sure the bore is adequate in size and insulated, to take in whatever line we need to do there.
Doug, can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Have you guys started on any interior elevations at all, or
Thought about what?
interior elevations at all? Have you started any work with those?
Yeah, I'm sure they have them. I don't have them here.
Okay. Do these partition walls inside, do they all carry to the roof? Is that the idea, or is it suspended ceiling kind of thing in the rooms, or?
I think they do, but the offices may not,
The-
but I'm not sure. And that's kind of, that'll probably be dictated during the full design,
Okay.
you know. I'm trying to see if, I'm sure the great room wall does.
And that's one I was going to ask you about, mostly that long wall that sits opposite the fireplace there.
Yeah,
If the idea is to have flexible space that's attractive to the community or
Right.
meetings or things like that, that wall would be usable for media and
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
So where you see the buffet tables along that wall,
Yeah,
that'll be solid wall there.
Okay.
And then you have a window from the office, above that into the great room. And then you have a roll-up door like the high school concessions
Yeah.
have from the kitchen to pass through
right.
there, for serving food.
Thank you.
And I may have some drawings in the latest package that might show some of that. But I got that about 4:45 today, so. But there, you know, some of these interior walls can still move around and whatnot, but this is the concept, this is the plan. and they maybe tweaked some, you know. One thing they talked about is up in the upper right, those exterior doors, depending on fire code, we may not have to have double doors there. We could possibly do single doors like we have on the opposite side. But that's dependent on fire code and occupancy load, on what size doors those need to be. So, you know, we could possibly do a single door instead of double swing doors, which. Does the board have any other questions? Mr. Chairman, I didn't know if you wanted to open it up on this specific thing to the public to see if they had any questions or comments.
Sounds like a good idea. Is there anybody from the public here today that would like to have any comments specifically regarding the proposed Casper Mountain Trail Center presented? Sure, come on up. And if you could just state your name and address for the record, thanks. Oh,
My name's Todd Hathaway, and I live at 209 North Huber Drive, so I know a lot about hills, okay? One question, looking at the plan, there's a lot of people go up, and the warming hut is important to both people who are skiing or shoeing or doing whatever, but it's also very important to parents and grandparents who come up to watch their kids compete and just generally have a good time. We lose a whole lot of that northeast section of the wall to maintenance, storage shed, or storage inside the building. The orientation, a lot of the viewing area basically faces into the parking lot, or a fair amount, and I wonder if you've considered any of that. Just as a thought, is that you can see the people coming in from the north, but you won't be able to watch them going out basically to the east, you know, when they're racing the trails or skiing or doing whatever. Don't need an answer, just something that you might consider.
So on this northerly edge, this trail is gonna be revised and they'll go on past there. And I'm looking for the, so you also have these three windows
Okay?
come into that grade. Actually, these four. So yeah, there's three, because one of them's in the vestibule, but there's three windows on that upper side where I just put my X's.
Okay.
So you have those three windows, and then you have the three that are kind of facing up Bishop's there. So you have
Okay.
two areas that you can look out from there. And I
Okay.
think they're 8 feet, 6 feet. 6 feet wide.
All right. Sounds good. Then one other question, and I don't know if you guys have done a study. With what I would call the concessionaire in the kitchen area, I think that people had always enjoyed having actually cooked food when they came in and when that was available. Did you guys have any thoughts, or was that like,
So-
too difficult to deal with, or?
They weren't, from my understanding, they weren't difficult to deal with, and I used the lodge a lot, and it was kind of nice, but the county subsidized that. So, you know, we couldn't just find a concessionaire that could run it without additional funding from the county.
Okay.
And so that's why we went to this catering kitchen setup, is that way there's still a kitchen for, you know, if somebody has a wedding and wants to cater it, that caterer can use that kitchen, those things. But having a concessionaire up there on a specific schedule, open hours, it just felt like, you know, we need to kind of not subsidize these things constantly, you know. It's nice to sit and have a bowl of chili and a coffee, but, you know, when the county and the taxpayer dollars are, and I don't even know what the amount was every year, but it was thousands of dollars. It was subsidized to have somebody up there, so.
Okay,
That's why we're going with the catering kitchen.
okay. And the kitchen would be open to, you know, things like the full moon, moonlight, ski, if they were to do, in the past, they'd done like a dinner thing. You know, come in, ski,
As
have
long,
dinner.
yeah, they'd have to reserve the facility for it. yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so clubs like the Nordic could do a fundraiser there.
Yeah, if the ski team's having a potluck, yeah, they can get it open for
Okay.
that. And we have an MOU with the Nordic Club, you know, so, you know, probably not. I don't know I don't think there would be a charge there, but if a private entity wanted to have a party up there, you know, yeah, they'd have to reserve the venue and we'd get it opened up for them. And, you know, there'll be probably a procedural list like in a concession stand at the high school that, you know, this is what you got to clean up and this is how you do
Sure.
it, you know.
Okay,
Kind of thing, so,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And those operational things are still being fine-tuned and decided, so we'll have all that figured out before we open it for sure, but, yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, in the planning of this, we talked about phases and things like that. Is there a loose timetable on when things are going to happen here?
So if I could get the nod from the Parks Board and then the nod from the county commissioners, and I'll have one public presentation of it and get a little bit of input from the public. I'm hoping sometime in December, we can give the okay to the architect to do full design. I'm thinking we might be able to get it out to bid and get a contract awarded to somebody to build it March, April, so they can purchase the materials for pre-engineered building and at least have it enclosed by Thanksgiving. I don't know if the interior will be finished, but that's the plan. Get them up there as early as you can. It's going to be a difficult thing this summer, you know, because the parking lot's probably going to be closed, and I know we'll upset people with that, but you got to sacrifice something to get something.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well,
So
thank-
hopefully by next Thanksgiving, I'd like to have a new lodge. My goal is to have it operational, but, you know, things come up, so,
We understand. Well, thank you for moving it forward.
yeah,
We're all excited.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to have some questions or comments on the lodge? Come on up.
Chuck Schmidt. I live in 1140 Carriage Lane. No questions really on the design. It looks very good, but I just would like to say that the public supports this very much, and we appreciate all your work, and hopefully you know that there's public behind you for this going forward.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this section? No? Okay. Board, any questions, comments, concerns about the lodge?
You've answered all mine.
Okay. And Michael, thank you for answering everybody's questions and making this project move along. Any general board comments or questions?
Yeah, briefly on, so I was looking on social media the other day, and I noticed that Facebook, there's a page for the park and rec. Is that's active or not?
It is active. The Parks Department does not have control of it. We've been working on getting that. A past employee, it's tied to their account in some manner. We've gone down several different venues to figure this out, but we are still working on that to get it either deactivate it and start a new one, or gain control of that one so that we can start to utilize it.
I think if that could come into fruition, it would be really nice for the public to see the progress as this moves on and see some of the good work happening on this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any general public comments to anything we're discussing tonight, or things we haven't discussed? If there's anybody from the public that'd like to come up, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, my name's Chris Sater. I live at 384 Oleander here in town. I'd made a couple of phone calls. I spoke with somebody about the trees on, up around Bear Trap and on East End Road that go through the campgrounds and such. There's a lot of deadfall that's up there, and I'm really concerned that we're gonna end up with a fire hazard. Right there, as you come down East End Road, where you turn into County Road 505, that entire hillside is just covered with deadfall, rotted trees. And, you know, I was just wanting to see if maybe we could come up with a plan to get that cleaned up at some point.
Yeah, I do apologize. You spoke with me a
Okay.
couple of times, and I didn't get back to you this last time. I got sidetracked a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to get some of that cleaned up, for sure. We've been working on Ponderosa Park and cleaning up some of the timber that's been cut down there. And that area, the timing kind of fell off here because of the snow and whatnot, and my
Absolutely.
staff setting up there. But yeah, that's an area that I've kind of brought up with my maintenance department, and so I'm not sure if I want to allow the public to remove it, even with a liability waiver, because, well, as you can tell, it's not, it's really steep and,
Well,
It's kind of bad.
it's really bad. There's a lot of trees that are leaning up against other trees. And, you know, we're causing a lot of damage to the good trees that are there
yeah.
by leaving those up there because the wind's blowing and they're knocking each other around and stuff like that. And we're gonna end up losing more and more trees.
Yeah, so my goal is to definitely, when the snow leaves, get somebody in there to clean that up, whether we contract that out, or I'm not sure if my guys are actually qualified enough to, I just don't want to put them in danger, so we really got to look at it and see how we want to approach it, but yeah, we do want to take care of that, and there's some other areas throughout the trails that need cleaned up, for sure.
Well, I would like to volunteer. It's something that I enjoy. I do have all the equipment necessary.
Okay.
I would sign whatever waiver that you would need. There would be no liability for the county. And I have trailers to haul off all of the branches and brush and stuff like that just to get it cleaned up and get it into a place where it's not gonna be hazardous.
Yeah, so I have your number, and we'll definitely talk in the spring, before the snow melts, and get a plan together.
Okay.
Whether we have you do it or somebody else, but I'll definitely be in touch with you on that.
Okay, I would appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, doesn't look like any more. Any final board comments before we close out?
I had one, but
Michael.
I had one, but I forgot what it was, so.
Dave, do you want to grace us here?
I just want to say that I'm glad that we're moving forward on the lodge. It's been a long time coming. And it's going to be good to have something back up there. And we've got some other things that we have in the works that we're trying to get taken care of that have, even back when I was on the Parks Board, that we discussed on a regular basis, and I'm glad we're seeing. I'm glad that we've got a plan and we're moving forward on a lot of this stuff. Have you guys got any questions for me?
I do not. Does anybody else? Thank you, Dave. We appreciate your participation and input as always, and helping to shepherd through these community projects that, as you stated, we've been working for a long time.
Well, we do have everything dropped that was along the trails now in Ponderosa, in Pitchpen and Raspberry. Most of those trees that we got to, the last portions of them, were very large ponderosas that were rotted from the core out. So, back to Michael's comment, as far as hazards go, it was legit. You know, I mean, you've got to have somebody in there that understands what those hazards are before you start doing it. And as long as you do, that's fine. But you don't want just somebody with a chainsaw, a general public guy going in there and doing it, because they can get injured. And it's not just if they injure themselves, it's also if they don't know what's going on as far as around them and being aware of that hazard. So a lot of people get killed falling trees every year. And so I have nothing but the ultimate respect for the guys that do it for a living. I've dropped plenty of myself over the years, but I know my limitations, and when they're dead and rotten, I don't want any part of them. So I appreciate the guys that can take care of those hazards for us. And they've been standing dead for a long time now. You know, that fire was a long time ago, 10 years ago. So, so it's good to have it done. But anyway, I don't have anything else. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'll let you
Thank
finish
you,
up.
Dave.
Chairman, I have one last comment. The Weiss boat ramp out at Pathfinder, we've been out there this week clearing that off. I got permission to clear the sediment off, so that boat ramp's now operational. So instead of just having one boat ramp at Pathfinder, we now have two.
Excellent. Great.
That's it.
One last thing, since we are getting further and further along in the design, do we want to have a motion from the board to approve everything presented so far?
That's what I forgot.
Somebody remembered.
Our former chairman gave me a little hint there. So do we have a motion to approve the design as presented so far?
I'll make that motion to approve the design as we have in our hands today.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I think we can,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
And I'll make note of that when I, hopefully I'll be on the work session Tuesday with this in front of the commission, and I'll make note that you guys reviewed this and are on board with it.
okay, thank you. And I think that's going to be all for this night. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. I'll second it.